Morning, Ron.
Good morning, all.
Good morning. Good morning.
I was almost late logging on. Somebody tried to give me a call.
Oh, that reminds me to put my phone on mute. Thanks.
Are we waiting for anyone else at this point?
No, I don't believe we are.
Good to go.
Ready when you are, Lisa.
I'm ready to go.
Okay, great. All righty. Then I'd like to call the Water Committee meeting to order November 1st, 2021 at 9 a.m. Let's see, our first order of business is review the variance agreement for water service to non-adjacent parcel Callahan and Page.
All right, good morning, everyone. So I'm back again with another variance. So I'm going to go ahead and get my share screen going here. Okay, are you all able to see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so here's your vicinity map for the project area where this variance is being considered. It's near Sonora High School. So I think we're all pretty familiar where that's at. Here's sort of an aerial view of the property. That's this yellow highlight here. It's actually sort of broken in two. I'm not sure why that happened, but mainly the main development is going to be on the larger piece. You'll see the baseball field here. The green pipelines, the green lines are sewer mains, and the blue are water mains. So Victoria Callahan and David Page have purchased this property, and they're looking to put two residences on the property. Initially, when they contacted us, I directed them that it would require an extension of a water main, likely down this access road. That was going to be difficult, they felt, for them, and so they requested a variance. And so the variance request specifically is to, I'll go to my exhibit map here, is to install a water service. This is Shaw's Flat Road here. Is to install water service. We have two different pressure lines. I'm not sure exactly which one we'll end up on, but the main point is that we will be connecting to an existing main in Shaw's Flat and then putting a meter at the right-of-way line of Shaw's Flat and then run a private line down the access road, presumably, to their property. They have reached out to the high school, and the high school is aware of the project and supportive. They did submit a letter, but the letter didn't quite address what I needed it to address. But if the committee does support this variance request, we'll have the appropriate letter for the full board to consider. Let's see here. So the department is supporting the variance request. We just don't see a need to extend a main all the way for one property. Just the additional maintenance isn't desirable to us. There's already looping occurring through the high school. You can see a portion of this here. So, an additional loop isn't necessarily beneficial. I often, when I look at these variance requests, I'm talking with Matt Nolte, I'm talking with Eric and other department heads to make sure that I'm heading the right way with these things. And it was determined that an additional loop just didn't have a lot of benefit to the district and just would add more maintenance responsibilities. I also looked at if there are any adjacent, new development potential, and you probably have all seen, this is this large property here. This is the property above the S, and actually extends all the way over to Snell Street. And there is a property owner here that is looking to develop the property, but at this point they aren't certain exactly what they're going to do with the property, but they definitely, their intention is to come from Snell Street where there's existing mains adjacent to the property, that's the direction they would want to take water service from. And we just didn't see that it likely that, again, that this would also loop through here and that there would be a need for looping for the development. So in other words, the research that we've done, it just didn't seem like there was a lot of benefit and potential use for a water main to extend from Shaw's Flat to the property. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. There is a participation agreement that the owners would sign that would be recorded against the property. So if, a main did come through here, they would have to participate financially in cost sharing of that water main project. And I think that's about it. Eric, if I missed anything?
I don't think so, Antonio. Thanks for the summary.
Okay.
Did you show the street view?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Let's jump over to that. So this is sort of just, we haven't gotten to the point on this one where exactly whether it would be on the left or right in the middle. This is just this just gives you an example. And the point is here is that the metering is going to occur somewhere, along the sidewalk here. This is where they're wanting the meter to be. And the hope is one side or the other that they would run their private line. They haven't done a USA yet. They don't know where any of the existing utilities are. I think our sewer main's more on the right, if I remember right. So, obviously they're going to avoid any utilities that they can, but this kind of gives you an idea of what we're thinking. Do I have any questions?
Go ahead, Director Balin.
Yeah, thank you, Antonio, and thank you for checking into adjacent parcels, wanting to take advantage of this and, to see if it's worth the district's time and effort to put a public in there, a main. Now, just for information, how does this work? They're going to construct it. It's going to be a pressurized line. And is it going uphill? And if it's going uphill, then does that add on to our energy costs?
There are no energy costs that we would have to assume. This is just a water service connected to the district's water mains. These are just gravity fed mains. So there's no real pumping or anything. It's fairly level to get to the residences. So there isn't going to be a significant amount of pressure loss for them. So I don't foresee them needing a pump. So we have pretty good pressure in this area. So it's just really just a gravity water service connection.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead, Director Ringen.
Okay, couple of things here. First of all, what size is that pipe going to be after the meter?
I don't know. That's up to the property owner to figure out. They need to have their plumber basically look into that. I'm assuming it's going to be 1.25 inches or greater, considering it's serving 2 residences. But again, that's up to them to size and determine. We still haven't gotten to the point of even determining the size of the public service lateral. Again, that's going to be, right now, I try to avoid having too in-depth of conversations and spending a lot of time, because if the answer is no here, then I will have wasted time. So, presumably they're going to, I always recommend upsizing wherever possible if you think there's any question, so, but at this point, in terms of pipeline sizes, public or private, we haven't narrowed down to that yet.
Okay, then what is going to be the connection charges? Because you've got 2 residences that are going to be built on that property, and being served by that one pipeline.
Yeah, so we'll, you definitely have capacity fees for the main residence. We're gonna go back, since it's been a little bit, we're gonna revisit on capacity fees for accessory dwelling units and just consult with Jesse real quick, make sure that we're still up to date on that. So I don't know yet exactly what the capacity fees for the accessory dwelling unit would be. For the first unit, it's like $8,100 roughly.
Well, I hope that there'll be, I mean, it'd be nice to know how big that additional unit's going to be, how many people it will hold, because if it's going to be just another house, then I think we got an issue there.
Right, well, I have to do whatever, the rules tell me. So whether it, now my understanding though, is that they're both under 1,200 square feet. So, but again, we want to make sure we get it right in terms of collecting the capacity fees, because with accessory dwelling unit laws, they've come, they've been evolving over time. So, and it's been a while, about a year since we've, revisited this. So my intention was to consult with Jesse and make sure I get the second unit right. I don't want to speculate right now.
Well, this is a water committee meeting, but I can't help myself. I'm going to bring this up. 2 units, both going to sewer. What about that?
Mhm. Right, so same question. So capacity fees in accessory dwelling unit laws for water and sewer are addressed simultaneously. So whatever I find out in terms of capacity fees for the second unit from Jesse will also be, it'll be the same for sewer.
And then my final bit here is the contract needs to be changed because we have a Don Perkins who is the general manager, not the interim general manager.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Okay, Director Balin.
Thank you. Yeah, good questions, Director Ringen. Along those same lines, Antonio, have we developed an ADU policy?
So we don't have a specific ADU policy. We follow what the city and county do. So right now, what I do know for sure is when people redevelop a space, so say a garage, and the county permits it as an accessory dwelling unit, then we are forbidden from collecting capacity fees for that. When it comes to new construction, that's where I'm having a little bit of a question, and that's what we want to ask Jesse about, just to make sure we're on the same page. I've been kind of going off the where we had last left it, that we weren't collecting capacity fees for new construction, but we want to make sure we're getting that right on this one. So we're gonna just check in with Jesse to make sure that there hasn't been any changes.
Thank you. I think it's actually really timely for us to get ahead of this curve. These are apartments, essentially. It's one thing to be renovating a garage into a den or something, and you want to put a bathroom in there, and then your mother-in-law moves in, et cetera. I see that, but if it's a standalone unit, it seems to me it would be good for us to develop a policy of our own, and I would definitely want to recommend that, and I'm sure there's lots of policies around, Antonio, you could take a look at that have already been developed by other mountain communities as well for this very situation, because I think this is what's going to be happening in the future. I think Director Ringen, we're going to get more variances. And the last thing I just wanted to comment on is, you had a very succinct beginning of your presentation, which was, here's where variances make sense. The board has always been reluctant to keep adding and tagging on these variances. We like things pretty clean, but it seemed to me what you had just read or recited is here's where a variance makes sense. Do we have that written down, which is it makes sense when it's not going to be subdivided any further, when we already have good looping and good circulation, when there's no additional cost or benefit to the district, when it would actually save construction and maintenance of the district's resources, there's a place for a variance, because I think that there is a place for a variance. The variances, they have a right to be, it's more than, well, the property owner took a look at this, didn't make sense for them. They went back to us. They asked us if we could make an adjustment. But I do think that you have a very good criteria because you recited it. And I just feel it would be beneficial to the whole board if you had that written down. Here's where a variance makes sense, and here's where we allow variances because it's mutually beneficial at no cost to either to the ratepayer. So that's all I would want to recommend. And maybe you have that written down, because I do feel that the board is starting to lean to, oh my goodness, we have all these variances, but there is a role for variances. And I would like that proactively identified.
Yeah, sure. So one thing I want to go back to ADUs. So we do have language that we've been working on in the water rules and wastewater ordinance, updating to reflect the new ADU laws. So, and in that language, it does basically say that we follow what the local agencies, that being the city and county. So we do have some language that we have ready to go. It's just we haven't gotten to the point where it goes with a much larger adoption of changes to the water rules and wastewater ordinance. So there's that. And then there is a list of criteria that we presented in I think it was January, when or earlier in the year, when we did a presentation, specifically just towards variances and explaining different scenarios that we have. But there isn't anything in the water rules or wastewater ordinance that says, oh, here are the situations under which a person can request a variance. It's just one of those things where that's my role here, is to identify those things in collaboration with our field staff and the engineers here. So we can share you. I think in that presentation there were lists of specific types of reasons we would support a variance, and I can resend that to everyone if you feel that's helpful. I'm not sure if that's answering your question or not, though.
I do think that's helpful, and I would think that would be very beneficial to pass that around. As I think as a new board begins working with these things, then they can get a little more comfortable. It's kind of not real until it's real kind of thing. So I think it would be a value. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Ringen, did you, I thought I saw your hand up. Did you have anything to add?
No, I think it good to go at this point.
I agree. So it would be, I see the language written here is that we would advance this to the whole board for recommendation, discussion and recommendation. I think we're good to go here too. I see Antonio and staff have really checked this out, and I don't see any problem with it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. And they're they're asking the right questions, and they're getting the best information that they can before they move forward. So, I think it'd be good to get this before the full board and get it okayed and let the staff do what they do best.
I feel comfortable if you do, Director Ring, and actually saying that we looked at this and we recommend approval.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Just takes it up another step rather than, we recommend that it go before everybody for discussion. We can actually say that we're in agreement that due diligence was done and that we have no further issues except to recommend.
Right. The only thing I will say is I'd like to know who the person was that made up this property line. I haven't seen anything like that in a long time.
Yeah, a lot of properties are very strange around here, partly I think because of mining claims. They sort of Swiss cheese the normal grid pattern. And so you end up with these strange shapes, and tax lines do the same thing. So,
I want to make sure that Lisa has captured in the minutes that the Water Committee has recommended that this variance be approved.
Yes, so what I have right now, Barbara, is
Okay.
the committee recommended approval of this variance and that this item be presented to the Board of Directors for review and possible approval.
Great. Is that okay with you, Ron?
Absolutely.
Great. Good. So shall we move on to the item number 2?
Yes,
Okay. As long as somebody says yes, we'll. Okay.
let's keep on going.
All right. And thank you, Antonio. Great work.
thank you.
So discussion regarding water service to a non-adjacent parcel in the community of Jamestown.
Okay, so this one I'm presenting to you a little bit differently. This is kind of more of a discussion item and to get direction from the committee. So this is a similar type of request. So a gentleman, John Curtin, who appears to be attending the meeting, he along with others own several properties within this yellow boundary here. What you're seeing here, this is the old Jamestown mine site. This is the Harvard pit, which is now called Whiskey Lake. And this is some of the old processing ponds, I guess, from the mine. Down here is the highway. Yep, okay. And just next to it here is Harvard Mine Road. And we have a water main. It's difficult perhaps for you to see, but we have a 12-inch water main here. And when Mr. Curtin, this property got split up in a very kind of unique way. It's what's called a parcel map re-subdivision. And re-subdivisions are not circulated to the district or other agencies for comment. So when you create new parcels, those have to get circulated so we can respond. But when you adjust parcel lines, we don't necessarily need to know. And so what they did in here is they took several existing parcels and created new shapes for them that are more useful and that can be developed. I don't know what it looked like prior. So these light lines here represents many of the parcels that they have. Here's one large one here. And Mr. Curtin owns this specific piece here. And he came to me some time ago requesting water service. And I had told him that it appears a water main, our rules state a water main should go up to the farthest parcel. And one of the reasons I mentioned that is partly one, it's our rules, right? Just like I told the previous people, but also that I was aware of that there's development in potential in the area, that the old mine site has a lot of zoning. You can see here business park zonings for many of the parcels that are around. You can't see some of it, but down here as well, that are adjacent to him are zoned to be developed and potentially have fairly significant types of development on them that might require a significant amount of water, high flyer flows, that sort of thing. So in my further research, I had learned that there is a private water line here that was specifically constructed by the mine, that was inspected by the district with the idea that someday down the line, it would be converted to a TUD water main if someone decided to develop the area. So I then changed course with John and said, well, this will need to be converted to a TUD line from private to public, which means removing a backflow device that's there, testing the water main and visually inspecting it. And Matt can explain maybe perhaps what else would entail converting this to a TUD line. But then from the end of that line, continue on to his property. So, this is kind of a difficult one, and and we just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it. Eric, have I missed anything, or is there anything you feel like I should be adding to this conversation?
The only thing I'd say, Antonio, is if you could kindly maybe go through maybe line by line on the list there of kind of your findings, because it seemed like President Balin found that helpful.
Sure.
Is to kind of, for the record, cite some of our findings, and maybe that will elicit some further discussion.
Okay. So in extending a main and converting this to a public main, you have all this additional parcel, this parcel. You have 6 additional parcels that I've identified that could have utilized this line. So this one here, this one, you may be able to get, you'd catch this one. I don't know if this is a building site or not. This piece here, which I believe John also owns, and it could further be extended up. This property up here is owned by a different property owner. It's zoned RE5. Up here, I think, is county properties, so they could potentially connect to and extend further this main. You also have this property that could, if he was to extend, that could benefit from that water main. Let's see. Yeah, so when they redeveloped this, there are now 10 parcels all in here, lots, I guess you call them parcels, that again also would be able to utilize this new main. There is, I don't show it very well here, but down here, this is also a private line. It was these 2 cyan color lines were both constructed at the same time under the same sort of arrangement and agreement with the district. So if this main was to be looped to the main and High School Road over here, say perhaps like along this purple dash line, you'd have a very strong loop that would provide considerable fire flow to the area. So there's definitely looping potential. This is just a hypothetical pathway for a pipeline. The potable water service, I don't know the water quality in the area. It may be that I'm sort of speculating in this number 5 comment that, it may be that anyone wanting potable water here may be desirous of a treated water connection as opposed to a well in the area. I don't know if the water quality, if there's an issue with it, the groundwater quality, that is, if there's an issue in the area. I did speak with the county environmental health about this, and there are no restrictions to drilling a well anywhere in this area, and there's no known contamination. So, my speculation perhaps is unfounded, but I could see someone potentially thinking, well, I want a potable water connection. And if you had a choice of the two, perhaps you would choose TUD over a groundwater source on an old mine site. Let's see, I think that's kind of running through the list there, Eric.
Yeah, I think you covered it. Yeah.
So, Ron, Barbara, do you have any thoughts?
I see Director Ringen's hand up.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on this. All right. I'm not real comfortable with this one at all. First of all, the county is paying, I don't know how much money every year for testing of the groundwater. So that tells me that something isn't quite right there. That's number one. So having TUD water, potable water, would definitely be the only way for those people to go, I would think, unless they have suicide in mind. But then if that's the case, then and I see the value of the looping for sure, but I think that it would have to, anything like that would have to come with a requirement that every parcel had a backflow device.
Anything else before I chime in, Director Ringen?
Nope, all done.
Okay. So this ground has changed a lot since before the mine and after the mine, and I'm sure the whole integrity all the way down it's changed as well. Antonio, can you please point out, and this is how I'm dating myself, where the old high school ag campus used to be, if you know that?
You know, I don't know. I think they closed it about the time I would, and I never went out there, so I do not know. I do know this right here is the high school road. So, you know, presumably they were coming up this road to you know, to access the school, but I don't know where it was, to be honest. But
Okay.
this is the road where you see, I think there's the cell tower, you know, at the beginning of it, and there's some storage units, and there's some commercial industrial type of uses on this road currently.
Okay, thank you. My understanding was that where that site was and some of the mitigation for some of the cultural Miwok habitation, the mitigation was enormous in this area, where they had to cap over large expanses before they could do any activities. And I think they used some kind of clay bentonite type stuff to actually cap the cultural resources and protect it. So I know that happened a lot out in this area, although I can't say exactly where without knowing where the high school is. So I agree with Director Ringen that this is a little more complicated. I have a clarifying question. The highlighted yellow outline, is that all Mr. Curtin's holdings in this area?
No, that is sort of the boundary of the map that created all the new parcels. So I do not know if Mr. Curtin owns any of the rest of the parcels. I believe when I looked in Parcel Quest, he owned these two.
Okay.
And so I can make assumptions, but I wouldn't want to do that. His name is not on any of the other ones directly, as far as I could tell.
And I see his hands up, so he can probably answer that too. But what it puts us kind of in a tricky position as a public water agency to really want to support an individual, you know, developing their land, but we also need to look at the whole enchilada, if you will, and so that we're not repeating a lot of. If we can, you know, plan ahead and yet not unduly burden folks in this area, we just really have to kind of think this out a little bit. And yeah, I would be surprised if there's no contaminants, given the reduction, the mining reduction stuff that was going on in here. I would like whatever's going on here to be on surface water as well. And the other thing is though, but I would like, you know, we always think of in terms of fire flow and extra pipes and all our larger pipes. I would be in favor of using directly the water, the raw water that's here for fire protection, and look at alternatives besides just oversizing pipes as an alternative and using treated water, when obviously we have the the reservoir here, the impoundment. So anyway, no further questions, except that I agree with Director Ringen that this is a little more complicated. Thank you.
Mhm.
I see Mr. Curtin's hand is up. Director Ringen, do you mind if I open it up to our public?
Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. Go right ahead, sir.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me on. In regards to your question, Barbara, earlier about the cap and all that stuff, if you look on there where it says County RE10 and County A10, all of that was capped over. That's called the tailings pond up there. That's on a higher elevation than the rest of the area. And all of that has been capped with that stuff that you're talking about. My question, Antonio, is for you as far as where you have tied on to for the new 1,350 foot of the 8-inch TUD water main down there. The owner of that home over there, I'm sure would have to be notified. I don't know those folks over there, but I know that the water line is up there, and I do know that there is a backflow, like you said, down there coming off the main and going up to their place, and they even have a fire hydrant, an existing fire hydrant over there near there. But I think what we would want to do if we did something like this is actually follow that yellow line where the property line is going up along there and ending up kind of by where my parcel is. And yes, I do own those two pieces there. The rest of the property actually belongs to the rest of my family. Gary Wilson owns the majority of it. And then my brother-in-law would own the piece that's right adjacent to mine, which actually would be right on his property line. And he's all for it and would sign on with TUD if we got this water line as well. The ones down below, down by the street, down there by the highway, those two, one of them is going to be developed here soon. And I think that they are going to be asking for a service down there. But there is a potential of the one in between us that could possibly be developed by another family member. And again, none of this other property is going to be sold out to anybody else besides or given to just family members. This is all one big happy family here. So my question was to Antonio is does this person down here that has this 6-inch private water line, do they have the right to tell you guys or us no that we cannot tie into that?
It depends. So if, if we were to do it the way that I've shown, if I zoom in, are you guys able to see? I don't know if that helps or not, but if we need to acquire easement from them, or you essentially as a developer, they do have a right to say no. Now, if there's an easement here, and I should have looked into this. I didn't think about it, but the easement that's here, if there is one, if it's already a public utility easement and it's adjacent to you and there isn't a gap in between your property and theirs, then yes, you do have a right at this point. Here, though, I don't know, our maps aren't always 100% right. These aren't engineered drawings, they're conceptual. So if this line is on the property line and the easement touches your property, then no, we don't need to get permission from them, though you obviously, we're going to need to communicate and just let them know that what's happening. They may, I think they're going to like the idea of this simply because they won't have the maintenance responsibility. They won't have to have a backflow device tested any longer, that sort of thing. So my assumption is that they'll be supportive of this idea, but to answer your question, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, in my findings down below that property too, I know that you and I had discussed on the phone about the existing, that 12-inch water main coming off the road. And there is a fire hydrant and the main does come up and there's a vault over there on that property. Actually on that very southern corner, yeah, right where your hand there is. In that southern corner down there, there's a vault down there that the water line actually stops right there. In my findings this weekend, that it doesn't go beyond that vault and the valve and everything is still out on the right on the right-of-way area of Harvard Mine Road, but does not extend any further. So the existing, where you have the existing 6-inch water line, that would make the most sense is to come off of that area. And I will say too, that my brother-in-law and myself, we already have plans for our homes, and we're getting ready to submit them before December 31st for the parcel where just below the one that has my name, where it's highlighted around that circle, the other one that says Curtin AE 37 there. I have plans for that property. I don't have plans for the other one, but my brother-in-law does have house plans that he's going to submit for the adjacent property there as well.
That's this one right here, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
The home would actually be up a little bit further up into the corner up there, but to the north. But regardless, we both have talked about it, and neither one of us would like to put in a well over there, just knowing what the water is, and we'd like to have a TUD, obviously. But if it has to be, whatever it is, we're willing to try to work with you to try to figure this out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curtin. Appreciate the background information. Everything's really helpful. I hate to be really remedial here, but can somebody point out, excuse me, where the old app house is that burned down?
I think it's down here, Barbara, somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, it's closer to the highway. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure this out. Okay.
And as far as the ag building that you were referring to earlier, the high school road, so right where Antonio's purple dotted line starts there, and right adjacent to there's that big parking lot right there. That ag building and all that stuff was right in that general area.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That is helpful. Okay, and then just for further bearings, I really appreciate that, because the whole landscape is drastically changed in this area. Way in where your southeastern boundary is along 108. Okay, so is that a through cut? Is that the through cut, and Bell Mooney Road heads it to the south?
Yeah, this is Bell Mooney right here.
Thank you. Okay, I'm getting better at this. Okay, so then that's the through cut.
Right.
Okay, so right there, I just have to say, if you look at the sidewall as you cross Woods Creek, there's a big lens of quartz, huge lens in the through cut. That is the mother lode. That is if you want to know who the mother lode or what the mother lode was, that big quartz lens as a profile when you cross the creek right there, that is is the mother lode. So at any rate, just a little gee whiz fact there. Okay, so at any rate, I have a question about my last question is, this was zoned residential originally, then the mine came in and bought up lots of parcels, and then they left, and now this has been rezoned as residential again?
No, I think the current zoning that I see when I look it up on the county's website for most of these is AE 37. So I think it's agricultural estate, if I'm not mistaken. So, I don't know all the uses that you definitely can build a single family home and do farming activities. But off the top of my head, I don't know everything that you could do on an AE 37.
Thank you, Antonio. Well, here's where I'm at so far, and then I'll get Director Ringen's opinion. Anytime we can serve areas with surface water, TUD water, rather than have folks drill wells, I'm in favor of that. And that's about as far as I can go right now. How about you, Director Ringen?
Well, I would agree with your statement. But I don't, I don't know where that puts us on our recommendation on this, to the full board on this project.
I'm not ready to make a recommendation, but, I'm just starting with one little common agreement, and now it gets a little more complicated.
Yeah, I just certainly would want to, before I would be saying yes on anything, I would certainly want to know how this is going to be, how the water lines are going to be put in, what, just, some of the details so that we can feel good about it. It's not that I don't want to have TUD serve these parcels, I do, but I just want to make sure that we're not putting our system or our ratepayers at risk.
So let me ask a question, if I may. So if Mr. Curtin, he's requesting water service to this parcel, would you be agreeable to him putting a meter down here at the Harvard Mine Road, or do you metering down here, or do you think it's more appropriate that we somehow get public utilities in here, the locations of which will be determined, with the metering occurring at the property lines of each of the respective properties? Do you have a preference for one or the other?
Well, our water rules and regs call for the meter to be at the property. I don't know why we've let them bend that rule, and also why we would want to serve multiple parcels off one meter way down at the road.
Okay.
That makes sense. That helps give Antonio some direction.
So, President Balin right now, so I have for the committee recommendation, see if this is right. Director Ringen would like more details on the residential development before recommending approval. Is that about right?
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Okay.
But again, it's, where does it make sense to the ratepayers?
Yeah, I'm looking at this, I think, to me, this is an A or B question. I think, Ron's right. We're looking at, our rules tell us we need to extend public mains to every property. But we can deviate or offer a variance to that rule when there isn't any benefit to doing so. And it's, I felt that it does seem as though there is benefit in extending a public main. And it's always a tough thing for me to tell that to someone who doesn't want to do that. And so, but here I'm looking, it was an interesting property, and, we felt it was something we wanted to kind of get a little bit of your direction on. And I feel like from Ron, I'm getting that, yeah, we probably need to do public infrastructure here. I don't see it as, it may be for the time being, that only 1, 2, 3 properties are going to be served by this for some time. And that occurs in a lot of places, so there may be this liability that the district is assuming, and this maintenance responsibility that may be higher for these 1, 2, 3 properties. But they're, we're trying to look to the future with it at the same time. So, I'm sort of, I want to try to get some direction, but if you feel like we need more information, then I can work with John a little bit more and just see, kind of get a little clearer picture of what he wants to do, and, maybe walk the site with him, and then come back again, maybe as an actual project, whether it be a developer agreement for a main line and or a variance. It's up to you.
Do you mind if I interrupt you
Sure.
guys in line and say one thing? Regardless of the ownership, I don't want the ownership, the family ownership, maybe clouding a little bit the fact that these are standalone properties. And we need to look at that as how we serve standalone properties regardless of the ownership at this point. Thanks for letting me interrupt.
No, I was more or less done, so no interruption. Thank you.
Eric, your hand's up.
Thank you. This is a fairly difficult, complex issue, and I respect the difficulty, to make a concrete decision here. We weren't necessarily asking for that. We're asking for discussion. We've had a great discussion, so thank you. And this illustrates a broader point, is that Antonio does a fantastic job with a very thorough, very methodical approach to looking at variances and whether or not they merit support and going to the committee, and then with committee support to the board. What I want to say here is to help articulate what we need from the committee eventually. There's two options as I think we see it here. Both eventually will require board approval. One is a variance. That's a board discretionary item. So if we were to go that route, this would eventually show up in front of the full board for approval as a variance, in which case there would be multiple private water lines running to the individual parcels. The second option also includes ultimately board approval, and that's a developer agreement for extension of a public water main that would be constructed to district standards, deeded to the district, and then the district would be responsible for their operations and maintenance. Now, I know we all know this, but sometimes it gets a little bit lost in the bigger conversation. So either way, I want the committee to know that eventually we're going to have to take something to the board, either a developer agreement or a variance, before we can establish any type of water service to any of the parcels that are non-adjacent to the existing public water main, which really there's only like one or two, which are very far down where Highway 49 and 108 are. So I just wanted to clarify that for the board.
Thanks, Eric. Director Ringen, do you want to let Mr. Curtin go first, or do you want to go?
Yeah, let Mr. Curtin go.
The only other thing I had, Ron, was just for you. It sounded like you had some other questions and concerns down there. Antonio has all of my information, and if you guys want to walk the property or go out there and actually physically see, what really is going on out there, I'm welcome. You're welcome to call me anytime, and we can go out there at any moment. But if you had any other questions for me as far as what's going on the property, just let me know and I can answer whatever you need.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I don't think I need to take up your time walking the property. I've been in construction and so on my entire life, and pretty familiar with how these sort of things work. I just had a couple of comments. One was, I want to make sure that staff and President Balin remember that let's not, as President Balin said, let's not let this, if this property is family owned, cloud our understanding of what we're doing, because parcels sometimes, many times end up getting sold down the road. Maybe it's years, but they end up going to somebody else out of family. So remember that. That's number one. So whatever we do has to be so that it's done to the water rules and regs. Number two is if the water main is extended to those properties up there by Mr. Curtin's property, is that at whose expense, number one, and would it come off of that where that red dotted line is?
Okay, so I can answer that. So this private line here, Mr. Curtin and the developers, whoever decided to participate, would be responsible for the cost of testing this line, inspecting, removing the backflow. So they would be responsible for that. They also would be responsible for covering the cost of extending this line the rest of the way. We would just simply be inspecting the construction of it. So sorry I didn't make that clear earlier.
Well, you probably did, but we covered a lot of ground here, and it's sort of a moving target. Then my final thing is, I would really appreciate knowing what it would cost and what the issues would be for TUD to construct the loop back down to that other line to the west.
Yeah, Eric, you probably had better to answer that one. I could answer my generic way, but you might have a little better nuanced response.
I don't need to know right now. I'm just saying, I think it would be really smart if we considered that as part of the project, so that it's done and over with, and it's not another one of those got to go back and do it, as well as it would be looped then, which would be better water quality and so on for the Curtin family and the other parcels.
I can respond in general. We could look at theoretical alignments for a loop through other private properties that, you know, aren't owned by Mr. Curtin and others. But realistically, we can only ask the developer to fund the improvement that would be needed to get water to their specific parcel. And the loop would be something that would need to be covered by another developer or developers in conjunction with anything related to the business park or that Antonio's identified there. The reason he brought that up in this variance discussion was that it's a factor that's a what if, and we're always sort of compelled to think about the long-term vision out there. It's a remote possibility, but it's a possibility. And given that it's right adjacent to the highway and it's a business park zoning, there certainly could be that use, but we wouldn't be able to ask the developer to fund the loop. If it was a board priority to fund the loop for benefit of our other ratepayers out there, then that's something we could look into, but we haven't identified a need for that loop to serve anyone else yet at this time.
Yeah, I didn't mean to insinuate that Mr. Curtin or his family members should pay for that loop. I was just trying to bring up that it might be something that's would be good to tie in TUD at TUD's expense at the time that that other line was in, so it's done and over with. But if it's going to be a big problem and we don't have the funds and ability to do it, well, then I guess it's just an extension of the water line and to the properties, and that's that.
It is mostly that, but I think your point is a good one, Director Ringen. If there was a right of way already dedicated that would form that loop, then it would make good sense to possibly put a stub in, a valve and a stub, a T type of thing to set yourself up for a future extension. We can look at that and see if there's a logical path for that loop. Absent that, it would just be something that would need to be designed at the time in which further development occurred.
All right, thank you.
Well, to wrap it up, good questions, good discussion, as Eric said. Would it be possible, you know, I don't think we've got anything to really go forward, you know, to the full board yet. I think we need another session at the drawing board to really flesh out the two alternatives that we have, which is either a variance or what was the other one? A developer agreement. Is that correct, Eric? Okay.
Exactly.
Kind of move on those kind of parallel what ifs, if you will, so that we can get a better handle on dial in the actual services for this area.
Okay, that sounds good. I think I got enough information to move forward.
Again, thank you, Antonio. Any further concerns, Director Ringen?
No, I'll be interested to see what comes back on the next go around.
Well, we appreciate Mr. Curtin. We appreciate your knowledge and being here. That really is always helpful. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, that concludes this item. Thanks, everyone, and we'll move to discussion on land acquisition for new Zone 4 tank and pump station.
Right, wonderful. Well, I am going to try to share screen, so bear with me here in a moment. Let's see here. Can you guys confirm that you're looking at a Google Earth image?
We are.
Wonderful. And Matt Nolte is also available to speak to this item. So I'll kick it off and then Matt can certainly go into more detail. What we're asking the committee to consider here today is elevating to the full board the consideration of purchasing about a half acre of land that is adjacent to this Zone 4 tank. And where is this? Let me zoom out, give you a better idea. Here we are in Miwok, going up Highway 108. If you get off near Alicia Sugar Shack and kind of make your way into the community there, the Zone 4 tank is off of White Fir Drive. And I think this is Jeffrey Lane right here. You wouldn't specifically see it if you were driving in the road because it's tucked back in behind. What you can't see very well here is a house here, house here, house here, house here. And bear in mind the property boundaries aren't exact. As you can see, there's a property line running right through the center of the tank. That may or may not be the case. But the takeaway here is this Zone 4 tank will eventually need to be replaced. It's a 210,000 gallon bolted steel tank. I think the records I looked up, it was last inspected in 2013 and was listed in fair condition at that time. Right now, the district doesn't have a replacement project in design or anything of the sort. We just know that very soon, when I say soon, I'm talking next 5-10 years, we're going to need to do something that will likely involve replacement. Even if you were able to rehab a tank of this age and this type of construction, you would need to establish other storage facilities during the duration of construction, which would be several months. So and I think Director Ringen can appreciate this in all of his career inspecting homes and dealing with septic systems. You always need to have a replacement area designated for your leach field. Well, you need something similar in the case of water storage facilities. It's a reoccurring problem for district staff is that these older facilities that we inherited constructed by developers. The developer usually picked the smallest parcel that would be suitable to build a tank and didn't think about how it ever be maintained and or replaced. And so in this particular case, we have identified this parcel, which is at a very similar elevation, nearly adjacent to the existing tank site. We did look for other parcels in the area that would satisfy our criteria. and none were found that would be financially or economically feasible. There was an option to go across the highway, but as you can imagine, boring and jacking under the highway and also the distance compounded the costs quite significantly. So we have reached out to SPI, which owns this parcel, and have opened just the basic level of discussion with them regarding acquiring the site, and we've ordered an appraisal which is attached to your report. I'm going to close this and open up some photos that were included in the committee report, and we can perhaps go through some of those briefly here.
Before you do that, Eric, would you mind going back? What I want to do while you have that Google view is if you who owns that parcel that runs straight off of Fur Drive? Is that yeah, that is that a easement or what is that?
It's a right of way. It's a public right of way, so it's not an actual lot. It's part of the road, and the road was intended to extend all the way, to this property. For one reason or another, the way the subdivision was created, this is a right of way.
So the parcel that the tank is on and the lift station or pump house or whatever you want to call it, that parcel has a leg on it that comes out to White Fir Drive. You
Correct.
know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, right here.
Yes.
Yes.
So is that where the water lines are located?
Yes, that's where the water lines are supposed to be located. Of course, I can't warrant that they are exactly in there, but yes, that was the purpose of that flag portion of the lot.
So if indeed that is where the water lines are, and they should be, of course, with the way construction and development was done back in those days, I mean, it's just like the tank being situated where it is. I mean, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Who would ever put homes up that close to infrastructure like that? That's nuts. But at any rate, it would be, if they are in that little leg, then it's going to be a slam dunk to get the pipes to that property that you're suggesting that TUD purchase.
Thank you for bringing that up. We did do some feasibility analysis. We went out to the site, took a level, didn't do a full survey, but we have confirmed that a tank located on this parcel would, and the piping, associated piping, could easily connect with the existing piping through this right of way.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sorry to have interrupted you, but I wanted to get that clear in my head before we didn't go back.
Absolutely, that was a good question. So I'm going to share another screen here. Okay, and let me back up. Let me try that again. Always have these little issues here. Okay. Are you folks seeing the agenda? Okay. All right. Thank you, Director Balin. All right. So, Matt, I don't know, maybe you would be better off navigating us through some of these photos. I think they illustrate pretty well what we have been discussing in terms of proximity to structures and difficulty of replacing on site.
Yeah, sure. I can do that. That top photo there is would be the east or northeast side of the tank. This shed here is approximately, I don't know, 20 feet from the tank. The second picture is our pump station that you access through that flag lot, like Director Ringen had said, off of White Fir. And as you can see, there is a home within 5 or 6 feet of this pump station.
And I might add that homeowner knows when that pump station is running.
Let's see, this next picture. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
Matt,
about that one.
I'm not sure the angle on this, but I was trying to, show the eave here in relation to the tank. And again, you can see the structure in the background too.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see with all these pictures, that site does not have the adequate space to construct a new storage tank. So you can see the trees, the homes that are in close proximity. There again is a home with its fencing right up against the tank.
That's new to me even. Oh, Director Balin, I see your hands up.
Yeah, and I can wait till after the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the interior of the pump station. As you can see, this is kind of antiquated equipment, and it's a small station. So you can see we don't have the redundancy that we need in that station.
How many homes are on that booster station?
There's 45 customers on that booster station.
I love the wall covering. That's really unique.
And actually, just since we're talking about the pump station isn't specifically identified for replacement. They're a little easier to rehab in place, and do upgrades. But what we would be proposing is if the board, the committee and the board were amenable to acquiring the adjoining land, we would incorporate any future project with a new tank with a replacement of the pump station as well. So we would take care of this pump station and build a new one on the new site. But even if we were able to, let's say, replace like for like this tank here, as I referenced before, we'd have to have either temporary storage someplace close by, or we would have to have another water source. And none of those are easy, nor are they inexpensive to achieve. And they would have to be reliable for a period of at least a few months to come in and build a new foundation and erect a new tank. And nowadays, the lead time on these tanks is getting longer and longer. So what could be a couple months could easily turn into half a year or 8 months. The cost to have temporary storage for that time would dramatically exceed the price of purchase of the land that we're proposing.
Go ahead, Director Balin.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think as timekeeper, I believe Lisa may have a hard stop at 10:30, and I do want to reserve a little bit of time for our last agenda item. So I feel like, Lisa, is that correct? Do you have a 10:30 stop?
No, I mean, I'm good. I'm supposed to go to another meeting at 11, but I don't have to be there. You
Okay.
just go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. All right, sorry to interrupt. Okay.
I should say we're happy to go as fast as the board desires. So Director Balin, Director Ringen, if you want more extensive discussion, we're happy to do so. If you feel like it's a pretty much a slam dunk. We're also happy with that as well.
If I can interrupt one more time, you've convinced me we need a little more real estate in this area. How about you, Director Ringen?
I don't need any more information because I've visited this site, shaking my head several times, wondering how in the world that ever got constructed, and I don't know. The whole thing is just insanity. But yeah, I'm good to go with recommending to the full board that we purchase the property and start working towards a new tank. I like the idea that the parcel's big enough to have a redundant tank also constructed on it at some point in time, as well as moving that pump station away from that poor person's house that has to listen to it every time it comes on. The only thing that I do have stuck in my craw is, where is it? It says, where is that? Yeah, it says, once a new tank and pump station have been constructed, the old facilities can be demolished and the current easements could be quitclaimed back to the adjoining landowners. I'm not real wild about that. I mean, here TUD ratepayers are paying $27,000 for another parcel of land and a bunch of other stuff, and we're going to give property away. I mean, this sounds like Curtis Creek and a good producing well that somebody's got a very green yard from for free.
I will clarify that we would never propose to get rid of easements that we feel would have future value, current or future value to the ratepayers. I think the idea there was if we are no longer going to have a facility in someone's backyard, there would be no reason that I could see, unless Matt or others, to have an easement through their property into the backyard. But point well taken. That really is something that could be evaluated after we have a new facility online.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, good presentation. And I hope I'm not hurting anybody's feelings if we circumvented a little bit here, but I noticed here it says 115,000. Now that property hasn't been really assessed yet or appraised yet, correct?
The property has been appraised. It was appraised at 27,000, far below the 115. I think the remaining part of the budget could be used for design of the future facility if we do move forward with acquisition. In full disclosure, SPI has been contacted. They do have the appraisal. They are willing sellers at this point, but the details of a purchase and sale agreement would need to be worked out and brought before the board in closed session for execution. And that's kind of the next step for us, would be to draft some type of purchase and sale agreement for the full board's consideration and move forward on that basis.
Thank you. So in other words, it would be closer to 27,000. Is that what you said?
27,000, correct.
Okay, right. And so that's nice compared to 115,000. That's the budget for something like this, for land acquisition. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I totally everybody disappeared on my screen. So sorry if I'm kind of lost a little bit here.
Nobody has their hands up anymore, and you have not hurt anyone's feelings for sure. If you want to expedite to the next item, we appreciate the direction the committee's provided.
Great. So Director Ringen, you feel pretty good. We can just go forward with this as a recommendation for the full board to acquire this piece of SBI property.
Yes.
Great. Good. Thank you, Eric, and everyone for your time and the good PowerPoint. And Matt, it really does help to get an idea of how close, even if we just see a little piece of the roof, it gets the point across. So thank you very much for the PowerPoint. So we can move on then to the next item.
Final item.
Okay, and I apologize. I can't see anybody. I can't get my little people back up on the screen or anything. So I'm just looking at Surface Pro. Okay, so all right. Item 4 is discussion and possible recommendation on energy costs, sustainability, alternatives, state direction, and policy development. Okay, Dawn. Do you mind if I just give just about a 2 sentences background before you kick off the discussion?
Sure.
Okay. So part of this came about because Director Ringen has been concerned and has brought it up a lot, which would, in my opinion, merit some formalized board direction at some point. And he's not the only director that is bringing up concerns about the cost of doing business is changing over time. And as fire kicks in, we need to be really, really creative in making decisions about how do we sustainably go forward with our water resources into the future, try to save money, but also understand that the state is looking at direction that would also include what would be also sustainable, like switching to electric vehicles, things of that nature. So that would entail us revamping our facilities to include maybe some docking stations or solar, or switching gears from gasoline operated hand crew equipment, et cetera. So we're just kicking off some discussion in transitioning, knowing that that there's the environment as well as just the bottom line cost that we have to now consider, including the state's direction to get rid of gasoline powered stuff. So that's my little kickoff. More than 2 sentences, I apologize. But Director Ringen, would you like to add more in addition to, I'm sure Don's going to be adding some here too. Yeah, I think pumping.
I think let the general manager go for it, and I'll save whatever I've got for afterwards.
Okay, well, I'll take off for a few minutes. I'll have a few sentences, I'm sure, but yeah, this seems to be a common theme. This sort of information comes across my desk via email and many times a week, along with a few other items along these lines. And so, here in the staff, I've engaged with a few of us here to begin to look at other means of providing energy, into our system, such as solar. So, Director Ringen, I know, came up with the idea many months ago, maybe more than a year ago now, about, like, for instance, a covered parking structure out here where the bulk of the district vehicles are parked. And while you're doing that, why not throw some solar up on top? It's a perfect location. We've talked about possibly solar sites at some of our pump stations or some of our other facilities that make sense. So we begin the dialogue here and the research, and in future projects, I suppose this is where we're going. We'll have a way to check in on this discussion on whether or not an alternate source of energy is useful for this project. So that's kind of where we're at as far as the staff goes. There isn't a real policy yet, but we can incorporate these things into some sort of a planning policy.
Yeah, thank you, Don. I think getting ahead of this issue, of which the state, it's California, and we're supposed to be at certain levels of efficiency, and so beginning as a policy that it's the direction of this board and TUD to have a sustainable future and to begin to recognize the power savings and the zero energy footprint, if you will, of our gravity fed system, which I think in a way is being used really well. But in terms of shifting the community, like let's take Jamestown for an example, there's a big impoundment there, reservoir, to be able to put a dry hydrant there or have it be our policy development move in that direction, that if you have a choice of water for a fire, then let's say Jamestown again, that's probably served by our brand new tank. However, everybody else is dependent on that for fire flow as well. So anytime we can, in the beginning of a development, shift the resource to raw water, I think that is, the board needs to clarify that in policy and direction. So Antonio has clear direction, for an example, let's say for Pedro Y, where we have policy that says, oh, you're within 300 feet of our raw water. We would like you to use this raw water for your fire protection and all your landscaping, because you're within, because our policy says you're within a certain range of that, rather than just continue use treated water as if it's an unlimited resource. So I think we need to take advantage of the raw water wherever we can, but have that into policy, because of the energy savings related to that, especially for fighting fire. I know we're moving in that direction, but I would like to kind of give a boost to our group, and if we kick off next year with a sustainability plan, which I think really I think if we don't consider the environmental costs and the economic costs and the social costs, it's not sustainable. I think we need a litmus that includes those three things. And yes, it will be impactful, but it will pay off in the long run, because then we're not boxing ourselves in an energy corner. So let's see, Director Ringen, anything you would like to add on that?
Yeah, I've got some very substantial thoughts on that subject. First of all, as Don Perkins and Matt Nolte know, I have a minor interest in performance vehicles, especially hot boats, and have ever since high school, which has nothing to do with our discussion other than the fact what they don't know is back in the mid 70s, I built my own solar panels to heat the water in the swimming pool that I put in behind the house that I own down in San Marin, Nevada. And I've always had great interest and I've always felt it was very, very important that save energy the best way you can. I mean, one of the biggest nightmares of my life was the oil embargo in the very early 70s. I've never been through anything like that, and I hope it never happens again. But at any rate, I would like to see, along with what President Balin was just saying, is that when Antonio is approached by a developer for service, and it's going to involve a pump station, that it's placed, of course, where it has to be placed in order to get the job done, but also orientated in such a way that solar panels can be installed, and the roof should be standing seam metal panels, so that it's a done deal. You never have to look at it again. And yesterday, during not yesterday, but a couple days ago, I brought in my electric bill, my PG&E bill, and let Don Perkins take a look at it so that he would get an idea of what the bills would look like for each meter that has solar panels on it. Now, I don't believe it would be possible to power the pumps or whatever at those pump stations in its entirety by the solar panels. But what it would do is cut down the electric bill, which is horrendous right now for TUD. It would help cut that down. And then too, it would be a PR thing where it shows that TUD cares about our environment and we're doing what we can with what we got. And so you'd have a double, triple whammy there. Now, the other thing that I would like to see also brought into the conversation is that when this developer or whatever that's come in to speak with Antonio, that the if it's going to be a pump station that has to go in for this development, that there's some mechanism that the electricity for that is paid for by those people that it's going to serve. I don't think it's fair for the ratepayers to pick up the tab on that. So for the moment, I guess that's all that I've got. But
thank you. So yeah, obviously this is all going to have to be taking some time. We'll have to all sort of think about this and see how we're going to fit this in and put this to practice. Right now it's very conceptual, but I think staff will get together and start piecing together some ideas to bring back, I guess, to this committee and others, huh? Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay, thank you. It's where we're going to have to go. When we sat in at the meeting, at the Water Policy Committee meeting for the county, it was really clear that we need to be in communication with them. If both of us are going to save energy, we need to be talking about. There's new supervisors. They would probably love a presentation by us about where our infrastructure is. Many of them haven't heard that for the first time, of where we are and where we aren't, where it makes sense, where there's fire protection, where there isn't. And so just things like that, as well as the realization that at some point when we change out our vehicles, we're going to need to be having that research already ahead of the game, which is finding workhorse pickup trucks, et cetera, that are solar battery powered, and factor that into vehicle replacement, looking at our asset management as we go down the road, because the longer the transition, the less painful I think it's going to be, and perhaps the less costly. So this isn't something that we can just kind of put our fingers in our ears and go neener, neener. It's not going to go away. It's just gonna, and so getting ahead and making a nice glide path into that transition and doing all the research ahead of time, I think will be beneficial to us. And I really got that in spades at the Water Policy Committee. I could really see that we could be talking a lot about what our needs were and sharing resources in terms of energy efficiency. And the only last thing I would like to say is, on the way up to Mountain County's event up in Loomis, we passed all that beautiful purple pipe and all the green landscaping and beautiful municipalities at El Dorado Hills. And I think that would be very field trip worthy for especially staff, not so much myself, but Matt and Eric, I think you would really benefit about, and how, and you too, Steve, how they paid for it, because they got a whole fulsome wide bond, because they knew that that would offset the power and water saving. So a field trip there, and then also a field trip to Utica Power and Water Authority with Joel Metzger has really offered to for us to go see their Peltons and their whole gravity fed system, how they do their water delivery without energy, I think pretty much. And that would be field trip worthy as well. Plus walking the 3/4 mile flume is something that should be on everybody's bucket list. So that's just in our backyard. And I know that they would love to host us on a field trip. So that's all I have to add on this discussion for now. Thank you. Go ahead, Director.
Okay, I just wanted to tag on to what you had said prior to the field trip comments is I think that having the TUD staff start getting serious about coming up with ideas on alternate energy, solar and all that is extremely timely, and will keep us from keep TUD from being caught in a bind at the last minute. And the only thing I want to add to that is if you don't think it's possible, think of what they did to us with the diesel engines.
All right. Thank you. Duly noted. Yeah, we'll start working around here on some thoughts, some ideas, and we'll have further discussions shortly.
Yeah,
So
thank
for
you.
the committee recommendation, is it that we will just continue to review and work together? I don't know what you guys want to put for this. What would you like to put for that committee recommendation?
I would like that we recommend a full board discussion at a future sustainability workshop, board workshop, sustainability / strategic planning workshop. Because all the directors have great ideas, and we bring them up, and we get all excited, and we go all over the place. And so I think the recommendation is, when we have a workshop that would include staff also, that we can have a full board, full district discussion, make sure that policy and for the board to develop the policy, the state direction, et cetera, that we're having a full workshop at that time. Clear as mud, huh, Lisa?
I got it. No, I got it. We're good.
Yeah. I'll spare you the atmospheric river. Don really got that one too last time at Mountain Counties. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order here? Director Ringen?
I'm good. I think full-blown workshop with trying to come up with ideas and help staff kick the ball down the road and start going. I mean, being prepared is always a good thing. I don't know why, but it is.
It's less painful when you're, yeah. Yeah, and chance favors the prepared. Okay, I was a Girl Scout. Okay, Don, anything?
Nothing more for me.
Okay, great. Any staff, anyone for the good of the order? Well, great discussion, and this concludes. I will adjourn our water committee agenda. Our water committee meeting at 10:38. Thank you, everyone.
See everybody later. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.